artistic assets of Palazzo Lascaris count numerous paintings of great value and prestige. Such assets include paintings and much more. The canvases owned by the Regional Council of Piedmont also include many over-door panels, as we find here. Many of these are true and proper works of art in their own right, of great historic and aesthetic interest. Some were brought here during or immediately after the Second World War to save them from the destruction or looting seen by many mansions in Turin. Among the over-door panels, here you can see two elegant canvases depicting classical ruins, loosely inspired by elements of Roman architecture. They can be attributed to models made by Viviano Codazzi in the early 1700s. Going somewhat back in time, we find a fine antique copy of the renowned biblical story of Jacob and Laban, painted by Pietro da Cortona, the original of which is found in the Louvre. The colours, tracings and figures in the copy here in Palazzo Lascaris are very faithful to the original. We see Jacob making peace with Laban, offering a sacrifice to God and surrounded by his wives Rachel and Leah and his children. A landscape signed by Flemish painter Pieter Rijsbrecht is also of great interest, revealing the French influences on art at the turn of the 18th century. His works depict idealized classical landscapes fraught with mythological characters. Another superb work in the collection is the watercolor by Giovanni Secantini, depicting the life cycle of a pansy. It is a sheet of reflections on a floral theme prepared during his years at the Accademia di Brera between 1875 and 1878. A gentle, melancholy work that clearly reflects the painter's young but sensitive soul. The 7 exquisitely fine etchings that surround it are by Ernesto Bazzaro, sculptor and engraver, and date from the 1920s. While the artist's name is associated with numerous monuments in Milan, his etchings are much more rare and thus more highly prized. Like many of the other pieces preserved in Palazzo Lascaris, these works are part of the Sperati collection, a collection of works of art gathered in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by the sculptor, caster of statues and collector Emilio Sperati, and donated to the Regional Council in 1980 by his daughter Luisa. Among the paintings in Palazzo Lascaris, 4 magnificent works painted by Lorenzo Deliani in 1894 stand out for their beauty. These canvases are true and proper masterpieces that show off Deliani's technical skill, his ability to work colours with brush and spatula, preserving density and a sense of the physical, thus endowing the items in his works with consistency. The 4 paintings depict a country landscape, the countryside at the Europa Sanctuary, the Mucrone Creek, the Morozzo Gully. Keepsakes from the time Emilio Sperati spent in Russia are 2 paintings of great interest. The first is a sleigh with hunters in the wintry steppes, a valuable work by Alexei Danilovich Kivshenko, outstanding painter of the late 1800s, specialized in hunting scenes. The second, Dawn in the Woods, is the work of Semen Platonov, a relatively unknown artist who produced quality works collected by many, even by the Russian Imperial House. The collection also has some gems by artists from Piedmont, such as the lovely tempera painting entitled Porta Antica di Lanzo Torinese by Adolfo D'Albesio, depicting an ancient gateway. Here, the artist blends precise medieval architecture with a clear verist bent. Likewise, the 2 small landscapes of the Alpine foothills are also of superb quality. The first, by Leonardo Bistolfi, renowned sculptor who also loved oil painting, depicts a woodland clearing at dawn. The second is instead a landscape of the Maddalena Hills by Cesare Biscarra, a rather unusual work dated 1903. The collection also includes the meadow, swamp and trees painted in 1885 by Giovanni Gianni, a superb Turinese artist, and later expressly donated to his friend Sperati. Emilio Sperati himself is the subject of this 1921 painting by Giovanni Grande, a Turinese painter who was greatly influenced by Felice Carena. The women of the Sperati family were instead depicted by one of the most original, most compelling portrait artists in Piedmont in the 1900s, Cesare Ferro Milone. The artist produced a portrait of Mrs. Sperati and the portrait of their daughter Luisa when she was very young, between 1902 and 1903. The collection also holds other fine paintings by lesser-known artists. There is the series of 6 small but pleasantly decorative landscapes by Benedetto Ghivarello. Among the paintings of the 1900s, we find a noteworthy collection of canvases by Pietro Morando in the room that takes his name, Sala Morando. Worthy of particular mention is an unpublished work by Filippo de Pisis, painted late in his life between 1949 and 1950, when he was at Villa Fiorita, a clinic for the treatment of nervous disorders. We wind up our overview of the most important paintings at Palazzo Lascaris with 2 works. Above and beyond their artistic value, these works are of historic, we could even say iconographic value, because they bring together 2 heroes of the Italian Risorgimento and the unification of Italy. The first is the portrait of Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, whose family owned this building for more than 40 years. The painting in Palazzo Lascaris reflects the classic image of the statesman, derived from a photograph and signed by an unknown Luigi Fognola. The second is the portrait of a young Victor Emmanuel II by Giovanni Maria Borri. Here the king is depicted with his hand on the constitution of the kingdom, the Sea of Genova in the background. The reference is to the year 1849, when Victor Emmanuel became King of Italy, sworn in with the Albertine Statutes. The works we have seen are the most prized items in the collection, which, like the palazzo that holds them, is truly worth a visit.